Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we will be playing the last part of Bernard's auto-RPG, Skies of Arcadia, beating the whole dang game.
Oh.
But before we get started and depress ourselves with that fact, how was everyone's week?
Well, I had a bit of a strange week because I never have the experience of being sad that a long-form piece of art is over when I finish it. But I finished Skies of Arcadia and was so sad that it was over.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'm just like, oh, thank God I actually got through this without falling off it, even though I'm enjoying it a lot. Because I have so many half-finished books and shows and video games.
Uh-huh.
I know that feeling.
And like with the pod games, it's usually awesome, I don't have to talk about Septerracore or Persona 2 again next week. But now it's like, damn it, I don't get to talk about Skies of Arcadia next week.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because I feel like this is previewing our later discussion too much, but I don't know if there was a chunk of gameplay I enjoyed as much as this one for this episode. This last, 4 to 5 hours was just fantastic across the board.
Mm-hmm.
As for my week, on the one hand, shopping for medical insurance is unfun at the best of times. It's a little extra confusing because I'm used to, in my previous state, they had a thing where it would tell you, oh, hey, here's how much your deductible will be, here's your premium, all these things. And on the Massachusetts one, I'm not seeing any of that information, and I can't seem to find it anywhere, and it's really confusing me. And so I'm just kind of signing up for a thing and hoping it'll be okay.
Cool.
That's stupid.
It is. But on the other side of things, as another piece of media thing that I haven't really talked about on the show before, if any of you haven't seen My Adventures with Superman, I do not care how much you like or dislike DC media in general. My Adventures with Superman is quickly becoming one of my favorite animated series of all time.
Yeah, I've heard it's fantastic.
It is. It is. There is not a single episode I have in any way disliked. It is a extremely fun time. The animation is gorgeous. The character designs are so fantastic. The writing is lovely, and it's such a fantastic take on Superman. But also, just the most recent episode that came out yesterday, actually, was just. I just am at a loss for words, and I'm so sad that it's only going to be an 8-episode season, and then I'm going to have to wait and hope it gets renewed for another one.
What the fuck is with TV show seasons being 8 episodes?
I don't know.
What happened to 22?
What happened to 22? And then on a similar DC news note, I started. I'm currently running a Masks game. If you've not heard of the TTRPG Masks, it's a fun little superhero system. I'm running a game of that in my own version of the DC universe, as I like to call it, the DC universe about all the really bullshit parts. And one of the players, my older sister Maya, she doesn't know very much about the DC universe or superhero stuff in general, which is part of the fun because she's playing a character who doesn't know a lot about that kind of stuff. But I started taking her through a messy show that I have a lot of affection for, Young Justice, and she is enjoying it greatly, which makes me very happy because sometimes I go to show that show to someone and it doesn't hit.
I've been meaning to eventually watch it, and I just haven't yet.
I really enjoy it. It's definitely, like I said, messy and kind of blech in some spots, but like the parts where it's good, it is good in ways very few other shows are ever good.
Speaking of television, that was really good. So this week's Star Trek Strange New Worlds is a musical episode. I haven't finished it. I don't know how good it is, but it turns out I had forgot to watch the week that I moved. I wonder why. It might have been I was moving the next day. Who can say? But I watched that episode last night, and it might be my absolute favorite serious episode of Star Trek, at least in a very long time. And the coolest part is I don't know how it ended, because they filmed it ambiguous, but not in like a cop-out way, in kind of like how Inception had an ambiguous ending because the point of the movie was that it didn't matter. It kind of was the same way here, where it's like, oh, it's ambiguous on how it ended, but it kind of doesn't matter because like the people are irreparably changed anyways. And it's really
That sounds
fucking
excellent.
good. I love it a lot.
Which Star Trek was this?
Strange New Worlds. So it'd be season 2, episode 8, Under the Cloak of War.
Yeah, I've been hearing such good things about that show. While I was at my parents', because they're Trekkies, I started watching it. I only got up to Spock Amok, which was the episode that made me go, "Oh, I need to really pay attention to this show," because that was excellent.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, it goes into like it asks questions about like, how is the Federation a diplomacy first thing that also just got out of a like 30-year war with the Klingons, and how are those two things compatible? And turns out they're not, and they're just lying to themselves, and it's fantastic. I highly recommend Star Trek Strange New Worlds to everyone. Also, the Spork Meet Cute was 2 episodes ago, and they have a song together in the musical episode. So,
oh my god, that's amazing!
Of course they do. I don't know how
so good
homoerotically charged it is, because I was falling asleep and I was like, no, I have to pay attention to the musical episode of Star Trek. But
I can't believe they did that.
The other silly episode this season of the crossover with Lower Decks is also.
I can't wait for that one.
It's also fucking fantastic, and one of the best silly episodes of Star Trek ever.
Oh, great! That makes me so happy to hear, because I really have a lot of affection for Lower Decks, and when I heard they were going to be appearing on Strange New Worlds, and that the actual actors the voice actors are playing them in live action, it made me so happy.
Yeah, and Boimler's voice actor is great. He's a fantastic voice actor. Boimler is a very good he's a very great character. He's also a fucking fantastic physical comedian, which is insane. It felt like watching Lower Decks in live action when he was playing Boimler, and it was great. Like, Mariner is my favorite character on Lower Decks, and she kind of took second fiddle to how fantastic Boimler was in live action. And I love this fucking show so fucking much.
Now that just makes me wish they'd also brought in my favorite girl, Tendy. But
well, there will probably be other crossovers.
There probably will.
Other reasons to put these guys in live action, because as far as I can tell, it was a very well received episode.
Yay! That's so good to hear. The political episode talk about with how they can square their stance on diplomacy with that all stuff. It sounded very DS9-esque to me, and as someone who adores DS9, I'm like, oh, I love that messy shit. Please give it to me.
Yeah.
Tell me how the Federation is complicated and messy.
Yeah, but Strange New Worlds manages to be the original series through, like, if the original series was made right after Deep Space Nine, it feels like part of the 90s like Trek heyday, but also like another season of the original series, and it's kind of a magic trick, and it's really, really good. But
excellent.
Don't want to say much more about it because we'll spoil Bernard for when he gets there in Checks Notes 2030.
I'm on episode 26 of the original series.
Oh my. I saw a bunch of random episodes of TOS while I was, because that's what my mom grew up on. She was showing me some of her favorites, which included episodes like the one where they do shore leave and there's the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, and I was like,
That's
really,
a
Mom? This is...
terrible
That's-
episode.
That's easily the worst episode of Star Trek I've watched so far.
It's one of my mom's favorites. Like, I get it. It's as bad as it is. I can see it being like a fun kind of silly, especially if you saw it when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's my recommendation for the week is all of Star Trek. It's kind of all good, even the parts that suck.
When I started the original series, I was like, oh man, I bet a lot of these episodes are gonna suck. That's sort of the impression I've gotten, that the original series has a low batting average, but it's really important, this series. But I've watched it. I've watched 26 episodes of it. There are like 2 I didn't think were good.
Oh,
And
wow.
like 20 I think were actually fantastic.
Yeah.
And then 4 that were like pretty good.
And speaking of how does the Federation be a diplomacy and also be at war, in the original series they're at war with the Romulans, and the first ever, we're counting this as an action episode because we're holding our chairs and shaking around, space fight that Star Trek is famous for, is not just like, hey, we shot at some guys that shot at us. It is an exploration of how can you be at war and claim to be a place for diplomacy. Like, it is not pulling punches from the beginning of the show. It's fantastic. Star Trek owns.
Star Trek is...
This is now a Star Trek podcast.
I'm very glad I started getting into Star Trek, which I literally didn't until fairly recently, which is still wild to me because my parents were both Trekkies, different kinds of Trekkies, but they're both Trekkies and they never brought me up on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you were both excellent parents and I have very few complaints. This is one of them. You should...
Yeah. My parents were poor, so we didn't have cable. We had UPN, so I grew up watching Star Trek.
My parents don't have interests.
Yeah. Anywho, let's talk about the Skies of Arcadia.
Let's do that.
But once we talk about Skies of Arcadia, we'll reach the end of it, and our time with it will be over.
We have to extend it forever.
When we last left our heroes, they had set sail for the Vortex to descend into the deep sky and find Fina's ship. The Delphinus approaches the Vortex, and it's scary. Even Fina doesn't know anything about the deep sky. What wonders and horrors await our heroes down below? Not many. There's just a bunch of mud, and they have to do an echolocation minigame to find and retrieve Fina's ship. But as they pull it out of the mud, they're attacked by a strange other ship. It's DeLoco. Time
This
for a ship
motherfucker.
battle. Yeah. This ship battle is annoying because your attacks miss a lot because the deep sky is dark. But eventually we defeat DeLoco's ship, and it fucking explodes, killing DeLoco all the way dead.
Mm-hmm.
Our heroes head towards Sailor's Island to drop off Enrique, but before they can get there, they're intercepted by Baltor's new ship. And we definitely remember Baltor. He was our first ship battle, and he swore revenge on Vice, and we definitely wouldn't completely forget him. His new ship, I guess it's more powerful than his first ship, but it sucks ass compared to the Delphinus, so it's not hard.
It was very funny. Apparently, I was reading that if you don't kill him in one turn, he is able to do quite a bit of damage, but I did just kill him in basically one attack.
Yeah, he can do a lot of. He has strong cannons, but his ship is made of wood, and ours is made of steel.
Yeah.
On Sailor's Island, our heroes share a touching goodbye with Enrique as he prepares to set off in a tiny ship and do what he feels must be done. He thanks our heroes for all they taught him about the world. He says he wants to protect the people of the world and build a country where the people don't have to live in fear. Enrique has left the party. Our heroes return to the Delphinus and set sail for Crescent Isle to prepare Fina's ship for departure. Ica says that Enrique left, and once they get to Crescent Isle, Fina will be leaving too. It makes her not want to go home. Fina tells Ica she'll miss her, and Vice says this is the first time he's ever not been excited to sail somewhere. When our heroes arrive, they're greeted by Gilder and Clara. Gilder proposes a going-away party for Fina. Our heroes and the crew have a big feast in the meeting room. Fina thanks our heroes for all the adventures she got to have with them. She says that when she left the shrine, the elders told her she cannot trust anybody down here, that the people of this world were fools who just bickered amongst themselves and burned in the flames that they themselves set. But during her adventures, she met so many caring people and saw the good in them. Later, during the party, Vice notices Fina standing alone by the window. He asks her what's wrong, and she says she doesn't want to leave and be alone again.
Aww.
But then an explosion rocks the island. Marco rushes in and says the Armada is attacking Crescent Isle. Our heroes rush out and find their home in flames. Vice asks how the Valuans found their base. Enrique appears and says, "You fly everywhere in the Delphinus. You come straight to our hideouts in the Delphinus. We know what it looks like. We saw you and followed you back here." Ramirez demands our heroes hand over the moon crystals. Vice says he'll have to kill them first. Ramirez is like, "Okay, we have a boss battle which we have to lose."
More on this in a
Sam,
moment.
you're cheating.
Yeah, I can't die, so this was an unwinnable fight for me. But also, by unwinnable, I mean unlosable fight for me. So I had to stop playing the game because I didn't feel like fucking around with the emulator to turn off the cheats and reset my health and all of that other jazz. So I just read the Let's Play for the rest of the game. But yeah, cheaters never win in unwinnable fights. It does remind me of one of my friends growing up said that Final Fantasy VII was impossible to beat because he was so good at the game and he couldn't beat Sephiroth no matter what he did. He always lost. And Sephiroth has Sturdy from Pokemon. If you critical hit him, he holds on and then will not die and will come back from it or whatever, and cast Kiraga on himself. And so because he had Game Shark codes in where every hit was a critical hit, he could not beat Sephiroth, and we all found out that he was cheating to play Final Fantasy VII, and which I thought was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Which is exactly what I did right now.
Well, unless our heroes are cheating, Ramirez owns them and claims the moon crystals. Fina asks Ramirez again why he's doing this. He says the people of this world don't deserve to live. When he was sent here to find the moon crystals, he joined up with Valua because it seemed they would be a good tool to find them. Then he could just steal the crystals and return to the shrine. But while he was in Valua, he saw all the greed, bigotry, and general shittiness in the hearts of the people of this world. He began to despise them. But Galcian was different from the rest. He wasn't swayed by flattery or gold. All he cared about was power. Galcian convinced Ramirez that the world needed a single ruler who could slaughter the weak and lead the strong. Ramirez says only Galcian can rule the world and unlock its potential. He says that with the crystals, a power greater than the Gigas will be unleashed.
So in other words, Ramirez got radicalized by a fascist.
Yes. And maybe we should go ahead and talk about this now. In the Doc and Maria side quest, which was added for Skies of Arcadia Legends, they add a backstory to Ramirez explaining how he trusted this guy a lot, but then the guy betrayed him, and that instantly turned him into a mass murdering psycho. And I'm like, I don't like that. It's way more interesting and believable if he just saw a bunch of rich people being really shitty and got really shitty himself, and then was radicalized by a fascist.
Yeah.
That's what happens in real life usually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially when you compare the way he and Fina were raised, like they were both isolated, and specifically isolated in a way where they looked literally down on the rest of the world, and were told, how cruel and bad they were. And their different experiences being Ramirez experiencing that cruelty and being taken in by someone charismatic, being like, yes, and I will, show you how to handle this, and becoming a fascist, while Fina found a community who helped her feel loved and cared for, and helped her realize that, like, she'd been brought up in a really shitty way, and that, like, that worldview she'd been grown up with was wrong.
Mm-hmm. And also, the Doc and Maria side quest goes out of its way to say Ramirez used to be like really caring and everything, but we're about to find out he knew the true reason for his mission, and he was doing it anyway. So it doesn't make sense for him to have started out loving the people of this world so much. It makes more sense if he started out sort of ambivalent and like, yes, I'll do what the elders tell me, and then he got so radicalized. I have a lot of problems with the Doc Maria side quest.
Yeah, I didn't continue it because I was getting such boring rewards for the moonfish stuff, and so I just stopped going to them. I guess glad to know that the thing I'm missing out on by not doing that is story that makes the actual story worse.
That's how I feel about it.
But at least the CGs are really fucking cool.
They are good, yes.
But are they as good as the CGs we get when Aika is sure that some place they're going to is going to kill Vice?
No.
Ramirez says that the crystals are going to unleash this great power, and Vice is like, what power are you talking about? Ramirez says that the true purpose of the moon crystals is to call down the rains of destruction. Fina, you did know that the Solvites called down the rains of destruction, right? Fina definitely did not know this. Ramirez says they weren't sent here to prevent the resurrection of the Gigas. They were sent here so the elders could unearth the lost continent of Soltis. But now, he works for Galcian. He and Galcian will bring back Soltis and command the rains of destruction themselves. Aika is like, oh, but you still don't have the silver moon crystal, so you can't do all this insane shit after all. But Ramirez is like, actually, I can. He takes off his glove, and a moon crystal's light shines from his hand. Then the same light starts shining from Fina's boobs. Ramirez says all Solvites are born with the silver moon crystal within them, and only through death can it be removed. He reaches towards Fina and starts pulling the silver moon crystal from her with, like, psychic power. But before he can kill her, the Claudia starts firing on him. He's like, well, this doesn't matter. I can get the silver moon crystal whenever I want. He hops on a ship and flies away. The next day, Vice and Aika look over the ruins of their home base. Aika asks what they're supposed to do now. Vice says he won't give up. It's not going to be easy, but they can rebuild their base and retrieve the moon crystals. Aika is reinvigorated by his optimism. He asks where Fina is. Aika says that she's been holed up in the meeting room alone. Vice goes up and knocks on the door, but Fina says she wants to be alone. Vice says he'll come back later and tells her not to give up. Fina wonders to herself what the truth about the Solvites is. She walks to the window and sees the whole crew working together to rebuild the base. And realizes, like, I don't know, she has a weird line where she says maybe her life is better than it's ever been. But, like, she doesn't look happy when she says it, and I'm wondering if it's a weird translation thing, because something about the line just felt off to me, but maybe that's just me.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah. The most important part is the wordless dialogue she has after that, where using just the power of the fantastic facial animation, she thinks about something, sets her face in determination, and then looks up at the sky. Like, never mind, we're going to do this, motherfucker. And
Yes.
she does all of that without words, and it's fantastic.
Yes.
I had been for a while, for various reasons, I've been playing this game without, I think I mentioned this last week, without really having the sound on, and I realized talking about it last week, like, damn it, I really should be listening. So for the entire last segment that we're covering today, I was listening, had audio on for it. And just the combination of the facial animation and also just the music and the sound effects, this game is so good.
Mm-hmm. The game is just so perfectly crafted all the way through. We cut to Galcian meeting with Ramirez, Vigoro, and Bellezza. He says the 5 moon crystals are now in their possession and he will soon rule the world. Ramirez says he must leave and complete the final preparations, so he leaves. Vigoro's like, wow, Galcian, you rule. Anyway, I'll be at my ship. So he leaves. Bellezza looks troubled. She asks Galcian to reconsider using the reins of destruction. Galcian asks if she intends to betray him, and she says no, she would never do that. Galcian, rests his hand on her cheek all romantically, and I'm like, wait, is that a thing?
Apparently it is.
It's more of the let's play goes in and talks about it. It's more of a unrequited thing. The way that she's talked about Galcian has been I love this guy and he knows it and is an evil fascist who will manipulate anybody to do anything. And so he's doing that in this moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I picked up. But it also felt like, I don't know. I was very oh yeah, I forgot. It's been a while since she's really had a lot of problems where the fact that she's in love with this dude has come up.
Yeah, I forgot about that completely. Because that was back in Nasir when she was talking about that.
Yeah.
We play games slow here.
We do.
Bellezza asks what she should do. Galcian says Alfonso is likely going to inform the Empress of his betrayal, and he wants Bellezza to go remind the Empress of his loyalty to Valua, using her deceptive ways. After a hard day of work, Vice and Ica stand on the edge of Crescent Isle, watching the sunset. They reminisce about the times they would watch the sunset on Pirate Isle, and think about how far they've come since then. This whole part of the game, they just go real hard on making you wistful about all your adventures and not wanting them to end.
Mm-hmm.
Fina walks up and says she's feeling better now, but she has a favor to ask of them. She asks that they accompany her to the Silver Shrine. She says that if what Ramirez said was true, her whole life has been a lie, and she wants them by her side as she goes to discover the truth. Vice says of course they'll go with her. Gilder, who is also there now, says he's coming too. And everyone's like, okay.
It's a real fourth wheel moment.
Yes.
Because it is just a moment of just Fina is very clearly having deep feelings for Ica and Vice, and it's just Gilder, yeah, I'll come.
Yeah. I didn't get a lot of time as the fourth party member. So...
It's true. He was barely with us earlier. So endgame, we get Gilder.
Yeah.
Honestly, he has a really great super move that is worth having him in the party for.
What is it?
Oh, he has a super move that effectively it's a very cheap one. It's only 1 or 2 SP, and it makes it like your entire party guarded that turn. In addition to whatever they're doing, and that's just really useful, especially in certain boss fights.
Yeah.
I think it's called Justice's Shield or something like that.
Oh no, that's Enrique's.
Oh, that's Enrique's.
But I did remember
characters.
Gilder does have it costs 3 SP instead of 2 SP, but it's Delta Shield, but it doesn't block good magic.
You're right. Yes, he does have that.
That's the one Gilder has, which is very good.
That one is very good. Because I love Delta Shield, but blocking your own magic sucks.
Except at this point in the game, you're probably not using your own magic, at least for healing, because you can probably just afford to buy 99 Sacrulin crystals.
That's true.
But anyway, in the Imperial throne room, Alfonso informs the Empress of Galcian's plans, and she thanks him for his loyalty. Then Enrique rushes in. He says he's returned to inform her of Galcian's evil plans. She's like, I know already. Alfonso told me he's going to bring down the Reigns of Destruction. And Enrique's like, holy shit, We need to get everyone to shelter. And Theodora's like, no, actually, what we're going to do is get the moon crystals from Galcian and command the Reigns of Destruction ourselves. Alfonso is the new commander of the Armada, and he will surely do a good job.
His track record definitely makes me think that he is the one who will do a good job.
Well, and he explains that by being like, oh, well, the only reason I've been failing up to this point is because Galcian's been the one in charge. And it's like, bitch, that doesn't make any sense.
He says he'll do great acting of his own accord. But Bellezza arrives and is like, whoa, wait, Enrique's here? Enrique draws his sword. He tells Theodora that if she continues like this, she will destroy Valua. He points his sword at his mother and says he must do this for his country and his people. Holy shit.
Yeah, I was like, this is a really great moment of character growth, because he started this game, being very like, no, Mom, this is wrong. But now instead of ineffectually just doing that, he's like, Mom, I will fucking cut you and take the throne if I fucking have to.
Yeah. Like, damn. Damn, Enrique. Bellezza knocks him out. Theodora, who is understandably freaking out, tells Bellezza to imprison Enrique in the Grand Fortress. Bellezza seems to have more to say, but Alfonso threatens her if she doesn't comply. Our heroes, and Gilder, board Fina's ship. It zooms into the upper altitudes, above the clouds, into the sea of stars. Fina says now Vice really will get to see what lies beyond the sunset. They see a strange floating structure near the silver moon. Fina says it's the Great Silver Shrine. Our heroes dock at the shrine, which is a wild technological sci-fi wonderland, but completely empty. If you explore a bit, you can find Fina's bedroom and learn little tidbits of lore. The most important thing is that the elders, Ramirez and Fina, are the only remaining Sylvites. There's not even plants or animals on the shrine. Fina grew up with just the elders, Ramirez, Cupel, and a doll for company.
Yeah.
What did they eat?
You can also find Ramirez's room. That's a very good question.
They ate technology.
Yes, ate technology. You can also find Ramirez's room, and I do think it's a little neat detail that if you look into Ramirez's room, what you find is just like a bunch of like charts and like maps and things, and this idea that he was once very interested in exploration. And I don't know, it felt like a little interesting way of like comparing him to Vice, and the idea that they started off with similar goals before he got radicalized. Like, especially because it's not like going like, unlike that side quest thing you brought up that they added in the GameCube version, it's not like he was a nice, caring, nice, this sweet person. It's like no, he just had an interest that like has kind of disappeared after, having his life changed like this.
Mm-hmm.
Which is honestly more humanizing and less stupid.
Yes. So our heroes make their way through a confusing path of emptiness, where like you don't have a map and the camera's weird. But they go through it and reach the center of the shrine, where they're teleported to a strange room which Fina identifies as the Chamber of the Elders. Old dudes in weird floating exosuits surround them, and the exosuits are really cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
One of the elders, named Elder Prime, asks Fina if she completed her mission. Fina says she completed the moon crystals, but they were stolen by Ramirez. Elder Prime is like, what? Also, why did you bring island dwellers back with you? The other elders talk about Ramirez's betrayal and how he might release the seal on Zelos. Fina asks Elder Prime if the Sylvites truly did call down the Reigns of Destruction. Elder Prime says it's time to tell her everything. Our heroes are teleported to a weird abstract space where they float around unnervingly. Elder Prime says they're in the Hall of Knowledge, where they will find the Chronicles of Arcadia and see the events that shaped their world. I think this is the only time in the game the name of the world is said.
Yeah, and
yeah, definitely.
And it's not even called the Chronicles of Arcadia in the Japanese. The world is literally never named in the Japanese, and this is the only time in English.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Our heroes see a giant island, which Elder Prime identifies as the continent of Soltis, home of the Silver Civilization. The world was at peace, but then the leaders of the other civilizations started seeking the power of the moon crystals and created the Gigas. The world was engulfed in war. The elders of the Silver Civilization watched and determined the world could not be saved. Everything came from nothing, so to complete the cycle, they decided to destroy everything so the world would once again be nothing. They hoped a new, peaceful world would rise from the ashes of the old. Zelos, the almighty silver Gigas, was born. It called down the rains of destruction from the moons and cleansed the world of evil. The elders then sealed Zelos within Soltis with a seal so great it could only be broken with the power of the 6 moon crystals. They sent Soltis into the deep sky in hopes Zelos would be lost forever, and sent the great silver shrine into the skies, where they observed the world ever since then. Elder Prime confirms that they sent Fina to gather the moon crystals, so they could once again call down the rains of destruction. He says that she must have seen all the evil and suffering, and that they must cleanse the world again. He also tells Vice that because he aided Fina in her quest, he may stay here in the Great Silver Shrine and live in the new world they're about to create. Vice is like, fuck you.
Also, he doesn't mention Ica, just Vice.
Yeah.
That's homophobic of him, really.
Fina tells the elders they're wrong about the world. They shouldn't destroy the world. They can be strong and work together to build a better future. They can restore peace without the rains of destruction. But her speech is cut short by Galcian appearing in the chamber of the elders. Ramirez brought him here in his own Sylvite ship. He says he came here to claim the silver moon crystal. Ramirez appears and strikes down Elder Prime. He collects the moon crystal from Elder Prime's body. Galcian says he thought of taking the crystal from Fina, but he realized it'd be much easier to get one from the elders. Galcian and Ramirez teleport away. The remaining elders talk about how hopeless the situation is, and how the world will crumble before Galcian. Fina says no! She refuses to give up. She and her friends will stop them. Our heroes agree, and the scene ends sort of weirdly abruptly, but they head back to Arcadia. Gilder says he heard that Galcian had built some sort of elevator on Dangrel Island, which leads down beneath the Great Cloud Sea. That's probably how they're trying to get to Soltis. Our heroes board the Delphinus and set sail back for Dangrel Island. They arrive, find the elevator, and start their descent into the deep sky. But then Vigoro leaps onto the elevator, so we are going to have a fight on an elevator.
Yeah.
We kick Vigoro's ass again, and this time we kick his ass so bad he has to quit his job.
The dream.
The elevator arrives at its destination, and Vigoro's like, well, you kicked my ass, so I guess I'm done being an admiral. Maybe I'll become an air pirate like you guys.
I'm just like, as long as you obey the restraining order, I don't care what you do.
Yeah, so he takes the elevator back up while our heroes continue through the deep sky facility and into the crazy technological sci-fi wonderland of Soltis. They make their way to the center, where Ramirez and Galcian stand at an altar with a silver sphere on it, which Fina identifies as the Silver Gigas. Galcian talks about how he's going to command the greatest weapon ever created and stuff, then calls down a boss to distract our heroes. It's very similar to the one we fought at Shrine Island in the first episode. Our heroes defeat the boss, but not in time to stop Galcian from using the moon crystals and breaking the seal on Zelos. He orders it to raise the lost continent of Soltis and tells the air pirates this place will be their grave. The room starts shaking, and the platform Galcian and Ramirez are standing on ascends, and Fina says they've got to get out of there. Our heroes escape to the elevator, but it's not working. They see Soltis rising from the deep sky, and the elevator starts collapsing. Our heroes have to run along the rails to get back to Dangrel Island. They almost don't make it, but then they make it! There's a great part where, like, everyone has jumped from the railing onto the platform, and Vice is the last one, and the railing falls, and Vice leaps off it as it's falling, and Ike is reaching for him, and he's reaching for her, but then he just, like, falls on her. Like, she doesn't, like, grab his arm. It's just, like, boom.
It's
just
fantastic.
flattens her. It's funny to me. We see the continent of Soltis rise into the sky, with Shrine Island slotting into it neatly. Drachma happens to be sailing by the area and is like, what the fuck is that? Our heroes escape to the Delphinus and try to approach Soltis, but a dome of light appears around it, and the Delphinus just bounces off it. Fina says the Dome of Light is the Dome of Light, an ancient defense mechanism used to protect Soltis. We see Galcian and Ramirez at Zelos' altar. Galcian says it's time to demonstrate their power. He orders Zelos to call down the rains of destruction on Valua. A beam of light erupts from the tower in the center of Soltis and pierces the yellow moon. We see Valuans going about their business, but they notice the moon looks weird. We also see Enrique and Bellezza trying to sneak out of Valua in a small ship. And Enrique's like, what's up with the moon? Moonstones start raining down on Upper and Lower Valua alike. In the palace, Teodora and Alfonso cry for help and try to escape, but both are crushed by rubble. Bellezza and Enrique's ship is thrown in the chaos. They survive, but they see the cities have been reduced to rubble. Our heroes are horrified by what has happened. They return to Crescent Isle and try to figure out what to do. Crescent Isle has been completely rebuilt, even though our heroes were not even gone that long.
Hey, they work fast.
Yeah. Brabham and what's his face? Ishmael.
Ismail.
Both said, well, if I was in my heyday, we would have done this in one day. So it took them 2 days this time.
I guess so.
I also just I don't know if we've commented on this before, but Brabham, his design, he looks weirdly Popeye-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like his art style is just different from everyone else's in a way that is kind of off-putting.
And he'll pull his beard and his mouth will come open way bigger than it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's weird. In a game that usually has a very consistent art style, he is a different one, yes. So our heroes convene in the meeting room, but Vice's optimism is finally breaking. He says there's nothing they can do. But a gallant voice says, yes, there is. It's Enrique and Bellezza. Enrique explains that Bellezza saved him and says they must prevent the rains of destruction from being used again. And also, we talked about Enrique's big character growth moment before, but also, now he, was just absolutely emotionally destroyed by his home country being annihilated, and now he's back at it. He's good to go. He's ready to act. He's the best character in the game. Bellezza says Galcian wants to rule the world, not destroy it. Valua was just an example. He will now likely travel to the different nations of the world to demand their allegiance. They can take him out while he's outside of Soltis to travel to the different nations. But the problem is that he has a whole armada with him. Vice is again frustrated by the enormity of the challenge ahead. But then Drachma walks in and reminds Vice that he promised to never give up. Drachma is somehow up to date on all the plot developments too.
Listen, he read a summary. It's fine.
And all our favorite characters somehow got the memo that Vice needed their help and arrived in their ships. Centime, Daigo, Clara, Gordo, Dine, even Baltor all swear their ships to the cause, and I'm like, how the fuck did word get out so quickly?
Well, I mean, a giant continent did rise out of the lower
and blow
sea.
up Valua.
And blow up Valua.
But how did they know to go to Crescent Isle about it?
I think enough of the characters already knew that the party was stationed there and was like, yeah, we're gonna go to them about this. They have been the one doing everything. They've been the protagonists, and I think enough noise was probably made about it that other people heard and were like, even if I don't like those guys, yeah, I should help.
Okay, I'll take it.
Also, Gohan developed telekinetic power so that he could talk to every person on planet Earth and tell them to raise their hands and give them speeder bomb power.
Yeah,
exactly. Also,
one fun.
Oh, good.
One fun thing is that when you're in Fina's bedroom on the Great Silver Shrine, there's a screen, and you can look at the screen, and she'll say, this screen allows you to talk to people over great distances. And after the events that happened later this week, I'm like, is that necessary? Because people seem to be able to talk over some pretty great distances just by shouting.
Yeah.
Okay, but now we get maybe my favorite section of both the whole bit we played today and the game in general.
So just stop me when you want to talk about it. Okay, so Vice gives a speech about how they're going to fight Galcian tomorrow, and everyone can hear him, even though they're flying on ships way out of earshot. Belitza looks on with a mysterious, bittersweet expression. And you're like, they couldn't do expressions like that in Final Fantasy VII. They couldn't do expressions at all. They just had the characters like do squats and stuff.
Yeah.
That night, there's a knock on Vice's door. It's Belitza. She says she's come to say goodbye. Vice asks, isn't she going to fight tomorrow? And she says no, she can't fight her own men. And besides, there's something she has to take care of. Vice asks what she means, and she declines to answer. Belitza mentions that Ika and Fina aren't in their rooms and must not have been able to sleep. She says a good captain would find and comfort them. She tells Vice he'll become a great leader and warns him not to break too many hearts. She blows him a kiss and walks away. So now we have 2 romantic scenes, and you can do them in either order you want.
You can, and this is the bit I was leading up to, which is just the trope of, oh, it's the night before the final battle and your character has love interests, and so you can go and speak to one of them and have a special scene. Like, that is a thing that has been in RPGs for I don't know how long that's been a thing, but I've seen it in a number of games. It's a trope. I have not seen a game going, yeah, you should go spend time with both of them. And you have to go do cute romantic scenes with both of them.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And if you do Fina's scene first, because of their locations, Ika sees it. And when you go see Ika, she mentions, oh, it looks like you were talking to Fina, but she's not jealous or anything. And her scene plays out exactly the same.
So cute and good. I love these characters and their relationships and their bonds with each other are so good.
So good.
So yeah, Vice finds Ika on the balcony of the meeting room. She says she couldn't sleep. She was too scared. Vice says he's scared too. Ika feels a little better knowing she's not the only one who feels that way. She says maybe now she'll be able to get some sleep. They say goodnight to each other. Then Ika leans over and kisses Vice on the cheek. She tells him they're going to make history tomorrow, and he better not oversleep. She heads off to bed. Vice finds Fina standing on the edge of the island by her ship. She talks about how hard it is knowing she'll have to fight Ramirez. She asks Vice to stay by her side. She knows she can do it if they're together. Technically, you have a choice to just say comforting words or put your arm around her, but I can't imagine anyone not selecting the put your arm around her option, so Vice puts his arm around her. Fina asks if they can stay there like this for a little longer. The next morning, the Delphinus leads Vice's ragtag fleet to Soltis, where Galcian's fleet has gathered around a massive flying fortress thing, which a title card informs us is called the Hydra. Galcian is ordering Ramirez to stay behind and defend Soltis when an officer reports that the Delphinus and a fleet is approaching. Galcian says he'll purge the skies of the air pirates forever. We fight a couple of easy ship battles on our way to the Hydra, then fight the Hydra, and it's actually kind of difficult because it's really big.
It's really big. It's got a lot of health.
And a lot of cannons.
Yeah.
Our heroes knock down its health bar and it starts to retreat. So they board it and have a short dungeon where they make their way to the upper deck, where there's a big scary door to the bridge. The big scary door opens and Galcian steps out. He and Vice say a bit of villain shit and hero shit respectively at each other. Then the boss fight commences. The music is good. After a long and fairly difficult battle, Galcian is defeated. But then he retreats to the bridge, which disconnects from the Hydra and ascends. He's getting away. He's going to retreat to Soltis, and then our heroes will never be able to get to him. But then our heroes see Belitza's flagship nearby, heading for Galcian's escape pod. She stands alone on the bridge, and says that as an admiral of the Armada, she feels responsible for all the people who died by Galcian's orders. She says, "Goodbye, my love," and her ship crashes into the pod and explodes, killing both her and Galcian.
I do really like this moment. I think it works. I think I would have preferred if she took him out in a way that didn't also sacrifice herself. I get why they did that, but like, I don't know. I think it would have been a little bit more powerful, especially for the female character in this sort of situation, to not also die in the process and instead be able to live past her affection for this horrible man. But what we have is very good.
Yeah.
The secret plot point that I teased a couple episodes ago was the thing I remembered was Beletza having a face turn, and y'all talking about how much y'all loved Beletza. I was like, oh man,
Just wait.
they don't even know she's going to be a good guy.
I kind of guessed, especially that the sympathetic trait we got from her in the Nasir storyline was this idea that she viewed what she was doing as like a mitigating force to make sure that casualties and the horrors of war would be minimized in the future. So once Galcian started doing his real villain shit, I knew there was a 0% chance she was actually going to follow through and be on his side, because they had set up her morals really well, and I really love that in a villain. She's a really great antagonist. I'm really annoyed that she killed herself, but also it was a really good scene.
In Soltis, Ramirez and when I say in Soltis, I'm not saying write mean things in the comments. I'm saying something was happening in the continent of Soltis. Ramirez freaks the fuck out about Galcian dying. He swears that Galcian will be avenged. Our heroes, who have returned to the Delphinus, see Soltis lighting up in the same way it did before. Ramirez is going to use the Reigns of Destruction again. In what becomes a trend of interesting filmmaking, which is interesting in a way this game has not really done so far. A bolt of terror strikes through Fina's mind, and we see it. We see the abstract concept of a bolt of terror. Strikes through her mind, and she looks upward. The great silver shrine is descending towards Soltis. One of the elders in the shrine gives a speech about how perhaps they were wrong about this world all this time, and now they are going to help Fina save this world. A beam of light erupts from Soltis, but the great silver shrine blocks it and continues descending until it collides with the Dome of Light, destroying them both. And we get this, the Dome of Light is light blue and it's transparent and everything, but then when we see it, when the silver shrine is descending, there's no sound at all. And you're like, is my emulator messing up? But no, that's just how it is. And then when it hits the Dome of Light, you hear creepy children's laughter. And then you see the Dome of Light cracking, except the Dome of Light is white and the behind it is black. It's really wild. So Fina is a little fucked up about seeing her home and the remainder of her people be destroyed. But she's filled with determination, and our heroes realize that the elders finally believed in the people of this world and sacrificed themselves to save them. Vice states his determination that their sacrifice won't be in vain. The Delphinus approaches Soltis, and our heroes make their way inside through Shrine Island. We can choose Drachma, Gilder, or Enrique to come with us. And I chose Enrique because he's the best character in the game.
I was tempted to bring Enrique, but I decided for old time's sake, I brought Drachma.
Yeah, Gilder is definitely third choice.
Listen, I like Gilder okay, but also...
Drachma and Enrique are better.
They are.
I mean, to be fair to Gilder, he doesn't have an arc, whereas Drachma and Enrique do.
Yeah. And
Gilder's
he
just
doesn't have an arc, and he's just horny dude who doesn't want to be tied down.
He has an implied arc because he's cordial and coupley with his stalker in montage scenes that we've seen of him on Crescent Island since then. But
which is different from how Drachma,
had a whole dungeon in his whole thing. Yeah, it is a implied off-screen arc versus a very big in-your-face arc for the other two people.
And yet I still, again, the thruppliness of those three, it's there's these three, And then there's the fourth person. And
Yeah.
like you can bring who you want. It's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and there's no like sometimes a game will try and give an explanation as to why all of them can't come with you, but there's no explanation. It's just like, yeah, you can just choose one of them, and the other two are going to stay behind for some reason. Also, there's a bit of a weird mechanical thing where, Gilder has been your fourth person this whole time. But in the cutscene, Enrique says, you can choose one of us to go with you, basically. But there's a longer part of the cutscene where Drachma's like, I am going to go with you. And so I was like, oh, so Drachma's going to be the default person, but no, Gilder is still your fourth person after that cutscene.
Yeah, it's weird.
It
I will
threw me off, but it didn't matter because I was taking Enrique anyway.
I will say a really interesting thing about bringing Drachma with you is, I mean, I don't know how you spend your moonberries in your games, but I hadn't unlocked his third super move back, fucking 20 hours ago when we last had him in the party. And so I had enough thanks to this dungeon giving us a couple more to unlock it now. It's called, I think, Hand of Fate, and it's a insta kill move.
Ooh.
And in this dungeon specifically, that is so useful.
Yeah, you have lots of like random encounters that are mini bosses.
Yeah, and so having him to just go, like, literally the move is his robot arm becomes a giant hand, and not even his like normal robot hand shape, but just like a big like cartoon hand, and he just squashes them flat with it.
And the most important part about it being an instant kill move is it is a really, really strong move that has a chance of instant kill. It's not like in some of the Shin Megami Tenseis and Persona and stuff where the Hama and whatever the dark
Mudo,
one is,
I think.
Mudo, but those are absolutely useless against bosses because they want you to engage with the boss fight, and they do 0 damage. They just have a chance of winning instantly. So if it kind of nullifies an entire element, but here it's still a kick-ass move, and sometimes it means you win right away, and that's awesome.
Well, even if it doesn't do the instant kill effect, there is, I think, at least one of the random mini bosses you can run into is that dude we fought as the final boss of the Shrine Temple at the beginning of the game, and who we fought a little bit earlier. That's just part of the random encounter selection. I got really lost in that area, and so I ended up fighting so many fucking random encounters. And the funny thing though is he's immune to the insta kill part, but the move does so much damage. I think it might have a higher damage output than Vice using Pirate's Curse or whatever the hell his Ultra 21 SP one is. So yeah, it still wiped out that boss every time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we go through this very long dungeon. Well, not very long, but fairly long.
It's pretty long, but it's the final dungeon.
Yeah.
So after the very long final dungeon, our heroes reach the altar in the center of Soltis, where Ramirez waits. He asks why our heroes killed Galcian, the only man capable of saving this wretched world from itself.
Why? And he calls it like you murdered him. And I'm like, this motherfucker has killed thousands of people, and we put a stop him, and we're murderers now.
Also, technically, it was Beletza.
Yeah. Also, it was Beletza who did it, not us.
So you know what I just realized? I kept almost making Anakin Skywalker jokes, but this came out before Anakin Skywalker, and it's
true.
And this is very, very, very Anakin Skywalker and the Emperor, which I think is cool.
If Anakin Skywalker was kind of gay for Palpatine.
Who's to say he wasn't?
That's true. Who's to say he wasn't?
I'm sure we could find
okay, but
plenty
Palpatine
of
wasn't his
fiction
daddy. Palpatine was not nearly as daddy as Galcian was.
No.
True.
Or Glacian? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
So Ramirez swears that our heroes and the whole world will pay for what they've done. It's time to fight Ramirez and not lose. Ramirez has an attack called Silver Eclipse, which takes forever, and you cannot skip it.
It also fucks you up good.
It does. But like, if you want to go get a drink or something, that's the
Yeah.
time.
Also, though, handy tip, fucking Delta Shield every turn against this guy because he will do insta kill spells at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the insta kill spells are silver coded, and he has them.
Oh, also he has the same Fina's really powerful super move where she gives the whole party regen. He does that to
Yes,
himself.
he does, which is neat.
Is neat. Also annoying because I don't want him
Yes,
to heal.
but Fina does have a super move that removes
Yes.
good things from enemies, so you can use
Fina's
that.
great support.
Fina is great. If you have Final Pupil, she's also really good at hitting random bad guys.
I unfortunately did not get to where I had Final Pupil. I was missing some chams.
Final Cupil is great because instead of turning into a weapon, Cupil just gets really big and eats the enemy and then spits it back out. Anyway, the battle is long, the battle is difficult, but our heroes win. After getting his ass kicked, Ramirez says he will not be defeated. He will kill everyone and everything in this world. He removes his glove and raises his hand towards Zelos, forfeiting the moonstone within him to merge with Zelos and awaken its full power, or something. Zelos starts expanding, and our heroes rush back to the Delphinus. Zelos expands and becomes a goddamned Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not predate the Death Star.
No, it does not.
I don't know how you felt about this. I thought this was an excellent ship battle, and it was very hard but fair. Especially in that, again, I love that most of the time the bosses in this game are not immune to status conditions, and so against this big magic-y death ball, one of the best strategies is make sure it's always silenced because you can just silence it and it can't cast spells at you.
The problem is that the silence spell lasts the turn you cast it on and the next turn, so you have to remember every other turn to silence it, and if you're me, you forget.
Same. It's a brutal battle too. It does its ultimate move almost every turn.
Yeah, and takes forever, and you cannot skip it.
Mm-hmm.
After a very long ship battle, Zelos starts losing its form and falling apart. Our heroes rush to the deck and are like, "It's finally over." But a chunk of Zelos falls onto the deck of the Delphinus. A fucked up final boss version of Ramirez emerges from it. So it's time for the final boss.
He went all Sephiroth.
He did. Safer Ramirez. So in this one, he has a cool special attack where he takes control of one of our heroes' bodies and makes them do one of their super moves against the party. And I'm like, that's really cool. Not really thematic that he takes control of someone. That's not really a thing he does. Like, Sephiroth might do that, but this isn't really a thing Ramirez does, but it's still cool.
It's a cool boss mechanic.
It was a very cool mechanic. He did use it both times against me on Aika, which means she just did oh god, what's it called?
Lambda
the one
burst.
Where she does Lambda burst, which is like at this point does almost nothing to my whole party. But I don't know if this was the case with you. I beat this boss in I think 4 turns.
Yeah,
like I just fucking destroyed it.
I will say that Ramirez did at one point make Vice use Pirate's Wrath against Fina, and that did almost kill Fina, but didn't actually. Damn. But yeah, the weight of this boss was kind of undercut by it ends, the victory music starts playing, and Vice says, "Ha, that was easy."
and it did feel easy.
I'm like, yeah. But the music is real good.
It is.
So the normal boss music does the thing that I mentioned a long time ago where when you're winning it gets all heroic and special, and the final boss music I think did it too.
I think so.
Either that or it just changed at a time when I happened to hit him real hard.
One of those two.
But anyway, our heroes defeat Ramirez and he fades away until only the silver moon crystal remains. Vice has a weird thing where he talks about returning a fellow fallen sailor to the skies, which I guess, considering what Trish said earlier about Ramirez's room, makes a bit more sense. I didn't get that, so I didn't have that context. But he talks about returning a fellow sailor to the skies and then just chucks the Silver Moon Crystal overboard.
I couldn't help feeling a little bit like, guys, I don't think he deserves this. I don't think he deserves this respect, but okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
This dude just
It's weird.
sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soltis starts sinking back below the clouds. Ice. No, I can. That's my ship name, I guess. No, Ika turns to Vice and asks what's next. They've already circumnavigated the world and saved it. What more adventures could they have? Vice says they don't need an excuse to sail, and they're still young. Who knows what kind of trouble they can still get into. Fina says she would be honored if she could continue to sail with them. They, of course, say they wouldn't have it any other way. Ika asks the secondary party members if they want to come too. Gilder says some nonsense about not getting tied down. Drachma says he just wants to be a fisherman again and live a peaceful life out of respect for Jack and Rocknum. Enrique says he must return to Valua and lead the survivors in rebuilding their home.
Before the when it is like, oh, Fina's gonna stay with us. Her and Ika do like a I don't know how to describe it, but it's extremely very like cute and intimate, and then they hold hands the rest of the scene.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. Our heroes decide it's time to celebrate their victory, and the fleet sails off into the sunset. An unspecified amount of time later, we see Enrique and Moegi's marriage ceremony on Crescent Isle. I should mention Moegi has like been in scenes and like, but all she does is like worry about Enrique and then be happy when Enrique's fine. So I didn't really mention her, but she's there.
Yeah,
she exists.
She doesn't feel unimportant when she's there, but like taking stock of the important plot beats, she has none of them.
Yeah. So yeah, we see Enrique and Moegi's wedding. We see people milling about the rebuilt Nasarad. We see people living peaceful lives in Ixataka and Yafutoma. We see Enrique and Moegi leading the effort to rebuild Valua. We see Vice and Ika standing on the deck of a new ship. They're joined by Fina, wearing a fantastic new pirate outfit. And Pupil, who now has a mustache, eye patch, and a pirate hat with his own image on it.
It's so good.
The fact that we never got a sequel or anything after this where we could have a whole game of Fina in the pirate outfit is criminal.
I know. Our heroes wave goodbye to their friends on Crescent Isle and set sail for adventure. The
I'm not
end.
crying or crying.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm definitely crying.
So yeah, let's listen to the credits music and then we'll talk about how much you want to cry.
So, one thing about this game is I feel like the whole thruple aspect of it absolutely cannot have been on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. It's too strong and too... It's not subtext. It's just text.
Yeah, like, in most games, I would feel like I was reading something into it, but, like, they seem to go so far out of their way to never have anything resembling jealousy between Ika and Fina, and never have you do anything that is like choosing between them. And also, they show Fina and Aika having affection for each other almost as much as affection between either of them and Vice. It's great. I love it.
It makes me so happy. It was such a... Like, we went into this game, and one of you told me ahead of time, like, oh, hey, this game has some throupley vibes. And I was like, oh, cool, that'll be fun. And then I wasn't expecting it to be this. I was not expecting just full, like, beautiful-looking polyamory with these characters. It makes me so happy. I really enjoyed... And I don't know if this is just me reading too much into it, but this is just the thing I noticed that I enjoyed was with the content of this week, when we got to learn more about the Sylvites and what exactly Glacian was doing, the Ramirez stuff. We've talked about a little bit about Ramirez getting radicalized into fascism, basically. But more than that, because it is, I mean, Glacian's just so fascist. This motherfucker's basically goose-stepping around. But the Sylvite civilization, they're not fascist, but they're very, like, nihilist. They're very, like, oh, well, people are just so fucking terrible that we should just wipe them out at this point and then let them start over. And it's like a contrast between that ideology and the fascist ideology of, like, no, what you do is you just take control and you make them how you want them to be. And, like, these two ideologies butting heads, and the way that one really led to the other, like that fascism would not have been possible, or Ramirez at least would not have been turned to it, without being raised in a society that devalued other people so much in the first place. And then we have the message of, yeah, but both of those philosophies are fucking stupid. What you really need is a strong sense of community and a lack of regard for social laws and fucking chaotic good coming in to save the goddamn day because you're just there for your friends and your loved ones, and anything else is bullshit. And I'm like, yes, this is a story I needed right now.
It's just a little wild to me that 7 weeks ago or something we were saying shit like, this is like an 8 out of 10 game.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
I don't know, maybe it was at that point, but it just sets stuff up and builds on itself, and then everything pays off so beautifully this week.
Yeah. This week did the thing that a lot of JRPGs do, where they get Disc 3 crazy, where there's like a twist, and then another twist, and then another twist, and then another twist. And the game that you complete in the last chunk of the game is not really the game that you've been playing. And this did that, but none of it felt unearned in a way that, like, I cannot say the same thing about Final Fantasies 7 or 8. Really. Like,
or, for God's sake, 9.
Yeah, definitely not 9. And so this this game, it's like, oh no, they were doing this the whole time, and we're going to spend time in each of the reveal cutscenes to like highlight the ways in which we've been doing this the whole time, and not just, aha, you've fallen exactly into my plan, Xanathos Gambit sort of shit. Like, it's
like even the things that, like, we were talking about when we were like, oh, this 8 out of 10 game, stuff that I was looking at as like kind of plot weaknesses, like just like the way the value in society was being portrayed, and how just ridiculously like fucking scenes of Empress Theodora being like, I'm gonna stab puppies, and her son being like, no, that's bad. And I was like, this is a little silly. And yet it gets recontextualized by the end of the game as like, showing you that this society is this rotten and terrible was a way to set up why Ramirez feels the way he does, why he's able to get radicalized into fascism the way he does. Like, it was all for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, there were 2 or 3 times this week that I was like, oh, we made fun of the game for not thinking about this, and now they're thinking about it and doing this. Like, in a unimportant one, we were like, oh, why do they have an altimeter if there's no ground below them? There is the ground below them. They all know about the ground below them, but they all know that the ground down there is just mud and uselessness. So no one's like thirsting to go into the deep sea because or the deep sky because it's been blowed up by the Sylvites thousands of years ago. It's useless garbage down there. But of course they still have altitude. They just all live in the sky now. And there's so many little bits like that this week, and it felt like one of the good Sherlock Holmes books, movies, TV shows, etc., whatever, where when they go back and they show you all of the clues, you're like, oh yeah, he definitely did do all of these things, and now it all makes sense, and I can see how he figured it out from the clues. I just wasn't paying attention. And not like the bad ones where you're like, well, that's stupid and bullshit. There's no way he would have noticed that. It's all just, it's good, man.
Also,
you're making me really want to go on a rant about classic Sherlock Holmes books and how they're not actually that great mysteries a lot of the time. But go ahead, sorry.
Also, I do want to say, I remember, like, in the first or second episode, we're introduced to all the admirals, and I guess it would have been would it have been the... I don't know.
I think second or third.
But we're introduced to all the admirals, and I was like, oh, there's 6 admirals and 6 moon crystals. I bet this is gonna have a really predictable structure, and it didn't at all.
It didn't.
No.
And it sort of looked like it might when we went to Nasir, and it was like, here's the red moon crystal place. The admiral of the week is Belezza. But then after that, it wasn't like that. Like, we went to Ixataka, and there were 2 admirals, Alfonso and DeLoco, who were a big deal there. And then we had all sorts of wacky adventures. And then
we didn't even get another moon crystal for a while after that.
Yeah. And then we went to Yafutoma, and then Belezza again was the main admiral there, and Vigoro was also there doing whatever. And
being his creepy self.
Yeah. And then we didn't even deal with any admirals when we got the yellow and purple moon crystals.
Yeah, and with Yafutoma, all of the episodic things we thought would happen, it would be the plot of the week, happen with no fanfare. You show up, you go to the dungeon, you do the dungeon, you then come back, and then the actual meat of the episode is all extraneous stuff. Like, they are a video game in which you have to go get six things, and there are 6 bad guys, but it doesn't monster of the week itself at all. And I would almost say it like deliberately plays on that fact, but I don't know if they deliberately played on it or they just are good.
Who can say?
Yeah.
Who can say?
I keep a list of JRPGs I've played, a ranked list, and right now I have Skies of Arcadia in the top 10.
That's entirely fair. I think it's up there for me as well now. I don't keep a ranked list like that anymore, but if I did, it would absolutely be that high. It's so good.
Yeah.
I have it at number 9.
It hits for me in a lot of the same ways Final Fantasy V did, but does so better. Which I love Final Fantasy V, and I think for its era and what it was doing, and the capabilities it had, it did an exceptional job. But this is just, if you want a fun romp that also manages to hit you with some incredible character writing and also manages to actually hit some important thematic beats, this is that. It is that to the 9th degree. It is going to make you happy.
And I think early on we talked about it not having a whole lot of emotional depth, but it sure gets there.
It definitely does.
And it uses all those fun, lighthearted adventures to give things more emotional depth. I mean, we were talking earlier about how things should have 22 episodes. Things should have that many episodes so that there can be lighthearted episodes that make the dour episodes hit harder.
Like, flashback to the beginning of the episode where I was talking about the season of Strange New Worlds. That super serious episode is sandwiched in between the Lower Decks crossover and the musical episode. That's important. This game does that.
And also, speaking about Strange New Worlds, that episode I mentioned that is the most recent I've seen, I believe, Spock Amok. That episode is what invested me in the show because it was a fun, silly episode that was just about the characters getting to do stuff. And it's what made me go, oh, I like this cast of characters now. I care about them. I want to see them having fun adventures. And it did. This is just so off topic, but it did a body swap hijinks episode that was actually good.
Yeah.
Do you know how rare that is?
It's so good.
Pivoting back to Skies of Arcadia, I will say I have it at number 9 now.
Mm-hmm.
If they released a new version of it where the only change is that you can speed up the battles and or reduce the random encounter rate, both of them actually, I'll say, it would probably be number 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a joke. That is 100% serious. The battles take too long, and it is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love this game. Bernard, thank you so much for having this as one of your auto buy RPGs. I've said this before, but it's just been on my list of games I'd wanted to play for so long, and actually playing it now, it's incredible.
Yeah,
I am so... You know how rare it is to be like, I really liked this piece of media when I was a kid. It's way better than I remembered. You know how rare that is?
Yeah.
It's pretty rare.
Like, this one is so good that I've changed my answers on what my block after Trish's is going to be. I won't say it here, but I'll say it in host chat later. But I felt I needed to step my game up a little bit because... we play games of quality now. No more Septerracore on this podcast, except we're probably going to get trolled by our listeners and we're going to end up playing Hexus Force or something for our best of the rest this year, and we'll end up playing some garbage too. But yeah, this game so fucking good.
It is indeed. By the way, that poll, speaking of our next game, I'm very surprised and happy with how it's going so far.
Yeah, that transition.
Do we say how it's going, or do we just tell people to go vote?
I
Go vote.
I say how it's going.
How is it going?
So we are currently in the lead with Super Lesbian Animal RPG, winning over Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Our most requested game.
It is not even close. Our most requested game.
And these furry lesbians are kicking its ass.
Yeah,
you love to see it.
I do love to see it.
I love our listeners so much. Like every single vote, we've been like, oh, this isn't really fair because Breath of Fire 4 is definitely going to win the PlayStation thing over Suikoden 2. Like, this is very much exactly what our people want, and our people are like, no, it's not, and they voted for it. Like
But then sometimes we'll have Paper Mario versus Skies of Arcadia, and it's like, well, obviously Skies of Arcadia is going to win, and it does. So you can't just say the not obvious thing is going to win, because sometimes Skies of Arcadia wins.
Yeah.
And like, I would have loved, hopefully at some point on the podcast we will cover Thousand Year Door, and I will have a fantastic time. And if we can get the game professor on to sub for that one, it would make me happy, just so I could finally force him to play one of my favorite games. Because trying to get him to play any game you like is a nightmare. But even though it just came out, God, was it last year? I think it was last year. Super Lesbian Animal RPG is a game that I'm just so excited, and I really hope it does win so we can talk about it, because that game's there's so much fun to it. There's so much depth, and I want it.
Yeah, so if you are one of the people who've requested that we play Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door and you have not voted yet, go and vote, because it's currently losing. And if you are a weirdo who likes when we talk about under the radar things, you can go and continue voting for Super Lesbian Animal RPG. We're happy either way. This definitely is.
I want to play both of these.
Yeah, this definitely isn't. I think we've managed to avoid anything where we don't want one of them to win. But this one is definitely, we want both of them to win. So whichever one you don't vote for at the end of the year when we do 2 best of the rests, I hope one of these shows up.
I would love it if Super Lesbian Animal RPG wins, and then for the 2 best of the rest, Paper Mario and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door win.
That would be literally the best. That would make me so inordinately happy. You have no idea.
But if you want to vote on what game comes next, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can donate to help us pay for hosting costs, game costs, and various subscription costs. When you do so, you can join one of 3 tiers. The Gadabout tier is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This gets you access to our Tales of Podcastia and Book Club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else. And this lets you vote on these polls whenever they're live. Then we have the Warrior tier, which is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month. They get the above and also get their name shouted out at the end of every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Cerebral Win, Florus, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron 524, Jfro Prime, and Doho. Also, special shouts out to Freddy Rodriguez. I didn't have him on any socials, so some random person on Threads was like, I think I want to start playing the Tales games. I think I might start with Symphonia. And I responded, oh, you should start with Fantasia and go along with the podcast Trying to Network. It turns out it was Freddy. So hi, Freddy. I now have met you, because I don't think you're in the Discord, but now I've met you on Threads. So hi, shouts out to Freddy. Then we have
Threads is good, actually.
Yes. And then finally we have the Luminary tier, which is for everyone who loves us so much they pay us $20 or more a month, and they also get a 1-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. So shout out to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout out to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website by people like us for people like us. And shout outs to Vimk, who says, play The Legend of Legaia. It's that PS1 RPG that everyone confuses with Legend of Dragoon. And also to Carr, who is a dentist, so he's not shouting out a game or a Twitch stream, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I have been Bernard.
And I remain Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.
We have to decide movie we're watching. Are we
Yes.
watching thematically appropriate movie, or are we watching auto by our movie?
Okay. So I feel like thematically appropriate movie would be obvious
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
because that would Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would your if you're doing the auto buy RPG for a movie, what would you choose, Bernard?
I think I would have to choose Oscar 1991.
Okay,
Because
I've never heard of it.
no one has. It's a comedy of errors starring Sylvester Stallone, and it's good.
Well, I'm good with either one. It's a movie either way.
Yeah, I'm good with either one. So
I mean, y'all.
Whatever
would
precedent
also...
you want to set, because I will get to do if we do the auto by RPG movie, it will be I get to choose the next one, and you don't know my taste in movies. You don't know what I'm going to make you watch.
Yeah, I wanted to know if y'all what precedent y'all wanted to set, if y'all had a movie where you'd instantly go to it and be like, oh man, I want to watch that movie, and make other people watch it.
I mean, I have one of those movies. It just would be weird to do an episode about that movie. But yeah, we haven't done that before, so let's do that. Let's do Oscar 1991.